Okay, so this is now the second maiden trip of the Sony FDR-X3000 that I got attached to my helmet up there. The first time I took it out, you know, I was riding my ZX10, and the riding position is you're more leaned down, so a lot of the footage is of the road. Well, not, I mean, it's got some of the sky in the back, you know, in the distance, but I just didn't like the way it looked, and it kind of bothered me if I was going to put them side by side between, you know, the Hero or the Session and then that thing. And and this is just to test the image stabilization of the X3000. It's not to compare image quality of the GoPro versus the Sony, although I think the Sony does do a little bit better job, just because the bit rate is a little bit better on it. But you know, there were some parts of this road right here that I went on earlier, and I wanted to kind of replicate it again, just to show kind of what it looked like. And I think the ride will be a little bit different because this motorcycle is a little bit more comfy. The suspension's not as stiff as my ZX10. I mean, it's a little, my commuter bike, so it's a little bit better at doing the job of keeping my the video, you know, steady. But there were some parts of the road up here that were a little bit jumpy, and I could tell that it's a little bit bumpy because of the fact that I can see it translated in my helmet. And I think if I were to use my X3000, I'd have to mount it just a little bit further back, because the riding position, you know, you're down like this as opposed to being upright like this, which is to me a whole lot comfortable. But looking at over the footage, oh my god, I love it. It looks like the Sony is on a gimbal. It's so smooth. And if you've seen comparisons between the you know, the different Sony brand action cameras, you know, a lot of people did complain that the Zeiss lens on the Sony, it made everything on the edges of the video warp a whole lot more. But you know, with this X3000, they've actually corrected that. So if you turn off the image stabilization, you get a really wide view, and the sides aren't as rounded, kind of like in a fishbowl look with the fisheye lens. But I do know that if you do turn on the image stabilization of the Sony, it does kind of crop the image just a little bit to get rid of a lot of that too. So because it's working to stabilize the image, and the way they do that is to crop it a little bit, and then it gets rid of all the, you know, the black. If you've used any type of image stabilization software before, you'll see a lot of warping and stuff like that. But I can definitely say I'm very happy with the way things turned out just from the initial test. You know, and then the reason why I decided to go with the Sony is the fact that if I wanted to just use the camera itself to motovlog, I wasn't limited to having to buy a, you know, kind of a dongle to hook up the 3.5mm jack to a microphone. I don't have to do it with this one. I can just plug it right into the back. Just like a lot of the old Hero, well, the old GoPros, the 2s and stuff like that, you could hook up a microphone just straight up to it, and you didn't have to worry about. Yeah, but this was just an initial test of the image stabilization for, you know, if you decided to ride with it on a motorcycle. You know, and a guy that does a really good job, and he's a big fan of Sony, is Everride. I like his videos. He does a lot of stuff. I think he lives up in Utah, so he does a lot of desert riding on his dual sport, and he uses a Sony, and he used I think an AS100 for the longest time, and then he decided to jump up to the X3000 like me, and man, he makes some really good videos. I'll put his link in the description below. But I haven't ridden this bike in so long. I pulled it out of the garage, and I forgot to put it on the trickle charge, and the battery was dead, so I had to push start it. You know, the biggest reason why I wanted to go to the Sony is for the image stabilization was because I watch a lot of videos on my TV. So I use Apple TV, and I go on YouTube, and I watch a lot of videos there. And when you got a very a bumpy video, it's just really hard to watch. So that's why I wanted to really go with a Sony, because I didn't want that for other people that were watching my videos. I mean, if you're watching it on your phone or maybe even an iPad, you know, a tablet of some kind, or your laptop, I don't think it's that bad. But when you get to a bigger screen and your eyes are having to track a whole lot of stuff at the same time, I just wanted a better image for everyone. So yeah, this is an image stabilization test for me and for you guys. And if you were interested in getting an action camera of some kind, you know, Sony puts out a really good product, and unfortunately, you're not going to be able to find it in the stores. I was able to pick up a Sony AS100V for a couple, I think it was less than 200 bucks. And it just so happened to be sitting out there, but that camera came out like 2 years ago. So I mean, it's comparable to the Hero 3 Plus that I got, but it still has the image stabilization. So when I saw it in the store, I decided to go ahead and grab it while I could. Otherwise, you'd have to get on to someplace like Amazon.com in order to order it, or B&H Photo. Oh, and another alternative to the X3000, if you don't want to pay the $399 price, you know, because you don't want the Hero 5, is Sony makes the AS300V, which is similar to this one up here, but it doesn't do 4K video. It does 1080p at 60 frames, and it does it really well. And it's about $100 less for that. So if you're looking to get into an action camera, that one's a pretty good option to look at too. Is the AS100V? Oh, AS300V. Sorry. And if you find an AS100V, you know, it was back in the day when attaching cameras to helmets and stuff was the big thing, and it did come with, because the 3000 didn't come with the mount for my helmet, so I had to use the one from the AS100V, and it's compatible. I mean, forwards and backwards, the gear is the same. Oh, speaking of stuff that's the same, batteries are the same too. So now that I have two cameras, I have two batteries that are exactly the same. And if you decided to go and you have GoPro stuff and you decided that you wanted to upgrade to the Hero 5, you'll have to buy a whole new set of batteries. I mean, it comes with one, but if you wanted an extra one, a spare, you can't use the GoPro batteries from the Hero 4 or the 3 in it. So you'll have to buy a whole brand new set of batteries. And the nice thing is you know, because it's a Sony brand battery, you can find it at stores too, so you don't have to go online to order it.
All right, here's a little bit closer look of the Sony's FDR-X3000. And as you can see, compared to a GoPro, it's not much bigger. It is bigger in terms of overall size, but when it comes to actually having to mount it on a helmet to vlog, it comes out pretty thin, which is nice because then you don't feel it when you're going at speed at like 55 miles an hour. You kind of feel this tugging if it's on the side of your helmet. This one, you don't feel it at all. And I had it mounted on the top of my helmet. I took it out earlier today just to kind of get an idea of some of the image and what it looked like, because I was really interested in the balanced optical image stabilization. But within the box, it came with this one mounting bracket. If you had the other Sony mounts, this would go with it. It does come with the waterproof housing, and it has a flat face to it, whereas the previous AS100 had a round, and you could order aftermarket a different dive housing for the front here, and it would greatly improve the image, because if you took this underwater, the image would be blurry, and they fixed it by having a flat screen. And then it also came with the USB plug. And you know, one of the things that I talked about when using this camera is the fact that you can hook up right there the 3.5mm microphone jack and just mount it on the side of your helmet, and then you can actually ride. Nice thing is that, you know, when it's closed up like this, this camera is actually splash proof, is what they say. So it can get wet like this, and then if you wanted to go, obviously if you wanted to go diving, you'll need something like this, and this can go down to 60 meters and 197 feet. But some of the other features of the camera, you know, other than the optical stabilization, it can do full HD, so it does 1080p at 120 frames per second. It has GPS, and this version does 4K. The AS300V does the full 1080p, but it doesn't do the 4K. So it's same camera, just a little bit different processor on it. And some of the other things that the camera can do is 12 megapixels. It can do 4K time-lapse photos. It does have a stereo mic, which are up front. And it does have active wind noise reduction. So, you know, everything that the GoPro Hero 5 added to it, Sony has already been doing that for years. And it's taken them all the way until now in order to catch up. But I took it outside, so I mounted it on my helmet and took it out for a spin. And then we'll go into that. And then I did do some other tests if I wanted to use it for vlogging. All right, now I've got the GoPro and the Sony side by side with each other, and they're about the same distance from each other, and I just want to demonstrate kind of the sound quality and picture quality of the two when I put them side by side. And you can kind of see, or you could probably hear the difference between the Sony and the GoPro. And as I'm talking, I'll switch back and forth between the two, so you can kind of get a general idea of kind of the way it sounds as I'm walking, and then just kind of get a picture of what's going on. You know, Sony's color palette is a little bit more robust, I would say. The blues are a lot more blue, the browns are a lot more brown. And some people don't like that because they can make all those images pop in post, you know, they can enhance it that way. But this is kind of an idea of what it looks like as I'm kind of just walking around.